Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the special open meeting of Suez Town Council, Thursday, May 26, 2016, 9 a.m. Council Chambers. So we'll call the meeting to order, and first is the adoption of public hearing minutes of May the 16th, 2016. Thank you. Can Councillor King adopt it if he wasn't here? Or is it?
Them to do it. Just have them.
Okay, so we'll go over. Just wasn't sure about that. Special. Okay, we'll have Councillor Campbell, Councillor Rhodes. All in favor? Thank you. Business arising from prior minutes? Anything on that? No. So we need to adopt the agenda. Am I correct? Thank you. Adopt the agenda as presented. Councillor King, Councillor Youngberg. Thank you. And first is delegations, none, correspondence, none, bylaws, none, business. And it would be the report on the Richter property development. Carol, did you?
Thank you.
Councillor Youngberg is going to recuse herself from this part of the meeting.
Did you check your phone?
Okay, so Director Cunningham, would you like
Thank
to?
you. I'll just read my report. OCP and zoning amendments for the town-owned Richter property went to a public hearing on May 16th. Attached are hearing minutes and staff report number 2, which was part of the town's presentation describing how the Richter property subdivision will contribute to effective growth management, expanded house choices, and quality urban design. Staff are requesting today that Council A, you've already approved the public hearing minutes, B, endorse staff's recommendations for responding to concerns raised at the public hearing, C, give third readings to the OCP and zoning amendments, and D, authorize the Director to follow up with a formal application to the Agricultural Land Commission, ALC, for excluding the property from the Agricultural Land Reserve, ALR. Overview. Public hearing results. As can be seen from the hearing minutes, no opposition was received against the central concept of developing the Richter property for a small lot residential subdivision with a subsidized affordable housing component. Concerns were raised about additional traffic on Wren Place and access to Highway 97, and in the case of one person, protecting Finstag Pond and buffering of their home. Staff makes recommendations to Council on these concerns in this section of the report, including referring to the following Figure 4 from our Southeast Medlock Area Plan and our Subdivision Concept Plan. First, traffic impacts. Staff recommends to Council that as much street interconnectivity be promoted around the Richter property as possible. By contrast, two presenters at the hearing, Ms. Isla Paterni-McKenzie and Ms. Haley Bourne, prefer that the proposed subdivision connect to a road not connect to Wren Place and provide access out to Highway 97 for new residents. Some considerations include A, the foregoing Figure 4 clearly shows that Council's intention in their 2007 Southeast Medlock SEM area plan was to complete a north-south connector road from the fire hall through the Richter subdivision to a proposed cul-de-sac at the south end of Wren Place within the Dallowell property. A highway access from Wren is also shown. This road layout reflects the contemporary importance placed in promoting street network interconnectivity to spread traffic loads around the network and provide options for all incoming and outgoing emergency vehicles, as well as for exiting of private vehicles in case of fire or other emergencies. At the time when our SEM area plan and fire hall rezoning went through their respective public consultation processes, there was no recorded comments concerning our road plans. As required by legislation, staff has referred our proposed Richter property rezoning to the Ministry of Transportation, MOT, for comment. The same road plan from Figure 4 was previously referred to them during the fire hall rezoning, and although at the time they were predisposed to close the Wren Highway access, staff were successful in keeping it open for a secondary fire hall access in the event of the 74th Avenue 97 Highway intersection being obstructed. It is unlikely that MOT would feel inclined to keep the Wren access open just to serve its 7 current residences, and instead would insist on access via the internal connector road. C. In staff's opinion, most residents from the new subdivision would only use the Wren access on rare occasions when they wish to travel south on the highway or exit an emergency. Instead, most will use the highway intersection at 74th Avenue, which in due time will likely be signalized, making highway turns even more convenient. D. Closing the connector road at the south end of the Richter subdivision with a turnaround is not only undesirable from a street connectivity point of view, but would be technically difficult to fit into the sloping area of the site. It may also likely place any future development of the DELEGATIONS property in jeopardy from MOT opposition. Instead, staff will review the potential benefits of installing a stop sign where the connector would join into Wren Place. Recommended, Council promote as much street interconnectivity as possible around the Richter property in accordance with the Southeast Medlock Area Plan, but in the event that highway access from Wren ever comes into contention during discussions with the Ministry of Transport, MOT engage local residents. And that was a commitment that was made at the public hearing. 2. Finstag Pond. As shown in Figure 4, this 4.45-acre kettle pond occupies a central strategic location in southeast Medlock. Ms. Petrini Mackenzie has long championed its ecological values and further urged its protection at the public hearing. Our Southeast Medlock Area Plan highlights the pond's importance as the amenity for the whole area and calls for a public park to be acquired around as much of its surrounding edge as possible through the development process, though this is not part of the current Richter application. The pond itself is located across private properties, with the north end being owned by Mr. Dennis Moreo, who spoke to this at the public hearing. The south end is owned by the aforementioned Dallowell family, and part of the east side is owned by the Martin family, who have 2 lots in Wren. All owners appear to be sound stewards of the pond. Recommendation. Council consider promoting Finstag Pond and its surrounds as a conservation park in our Parks and Trails Plan, which is presently under preparation, including protecting and enhancing its ecological values through careful design and limited public access. In the meantime, continued reliance will be placed on sound stewardship of the pond through local property owners and neighborhood oversight. 3rd, buffering. Ms. Bertini Mackenzie raised concerns at the hearing about adequate buffering for her family home situated near the southwest corner of the Richter subdivision. As shown in the subdivision concept, staff and our designers have taken advantage of the alignment of a sewer easement and topographical decline at the southeast subdivision corner to maintain a 20-meter separation distance between the Bertini Mackenzie residence and the near subdivision house site at the rise of the hill. This compares with a minimum 1.5-meter internal side yard requirement for her R1 residentially zoned property. Our engineer, Terry Underwood, has advised against the town taking on ongoing responsibilities for adding trees or shrubs into what will be private property. But when I say private property, I mean that first adjacent lot in the new subdivision. Recommended, Council direct the staff and the Richter property developer maintain a large separation distance between the Petrini Mackenzie residence and the nearest subdivision home by siting it close to its northern lot line. Okay, turning to the next section of the report, the ALR application. When the Director spoke with the Agricultural Land Commission representatives after a meeting with Council on April 4th, he came away with the impression they may deal with our ALR application internally at the staff level because of the Commission's prior agreement in principle for excluding any properties developed in accordance with the SEM area plan. However, we were subsequently apprised that this is not the case and have to submit a formal application as owner under Section 30 of the Agricultural Land Commission Act, the LCA. We quickly commenced electronic filing and met all application requirements for posting on the property, public advertising and notifications of nearby property owners. And I want to thank our Assistant Debbie Gagne for putting all of that in order very quickly. I should say no letters have been received from the public by the closing date of May 25th. And also at the public hearing, no opposition was raised, I should say, about taking the property out of the ALR. After third readings of the OCP and zoning bylaw amendments, we will complete our formal application for excluding the Richter property and await their response before council consideration of final bylaw adoption. The same holds true with our MOT referral. I should add that I had a phone conversation with my contact in the Agricultural Land Commission yesterday, and they've again reversed their position and said that we do not have to go through a formal application process. And I said, well, we have, and we've compiled all the proper information for that, and I said we will be forwarding it, and I don't think there's any problem with that. I think it's only going to add to our quality application. Options. Council requested to agree with revisions or not agree to. Public hearing minutes are approved. Option 2. Endorse staff's recommendations for responding to concerns raised at the hearing and authorize transmitting them to all property owners within a 60-meter buffer around the Richter property and to any additional property owners on Wren Place. Option 3. Give third readings to Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1230.17 to 16 to extend the urban growth boundary UGB around the Richter property remainder and change its land use designation from agricultural AG to intensive residential development IRD. And zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 1085.98 to 16 to change the designated zoning of the Richter property remainder from AG agriculture to IRD intensive residential development. And then option 4, authorize signing of an agent authorization letter for the director to make application to the Agricultural Land Commission for release of the Richter property remainder from the ALR. And I recognize this is a repeat of an authorization that you gave me earlier to do this, but in this particular case, following the formal application process, we have a formal form that will be signed. Recommendation. Staff recommends that council agree to options 1, 2, 3, and 4, one already being approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Cunningham, and thank you for being very careful with all of the concerns that the residents had, and I think dealing with them. I had a question. If the road continues and it goes through the Richter property and up Wren Place, would that include having the road updated with sidewalks, lights, and so on at Wren Place, or is that not in the...
That's not in the current plans, but you raised a very, very good point. I'll certainly raise that with the engineer and see whether there would be any advantages in doing that right now, or maybe just hold off and
right.
Consider it as a future project. Certainly it might be appropriate when the property at the south end of Wren
sure.
opened up.
Okay, I was just wondering that when I read it. Thank you very much. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is it standard procedure to change the zoning before we get clarification from the LR whether they're going to take it out of the land reserve?
Yeah, we can't. Our OCP and our zoning bylaw can't be in non-compliance or in contravention with the Agricultural Land Commission Act. So, for us to change the zoning and the OCB designation, we have to have their agreement prior that the property is going to be excluded from the Agricultural Land Reserve. And we also outline that exact process in the Southeast Meadowlark Area Plan. So we're following the process in that plan to the T.
So option 3 wouldn't really happen until after we hear back from option 4?
No. So let me... No. Option 3 is we're just asking right now for you to give third readings.
Oh, I'm
so-
sorry, yeah.
Okay, so then once we get the clearance
Yeah.
from the LR,
Yeah,
then we can go to adoption.
yeah, that's it, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I had a couple of questions about the internal road in the subdivision. Is this a good time, or can we do that at some other point?
It could be done at some other point if you wish.
Yeah, before the final design is done?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll just leave it till then.
Okay.
So when the development starts to get built out and people move in there and they become residents of that community, you made reference to one of the concerns about when they're exiting and they reach the new road, will they turn right or will they turn left? Most of the concern of the Wren residents was the increase in traffic. I don't think so much about the road, and I'm wondering, you made reference to a stop sign. Of course, people would stop and then they would logically go either right or left, and you indicated the majority would turn right and exit out of there that way. I'm wondering if there's any kind of signage that would be more appropriate than a stop sign that would encourage people to turn right instead of left. And I don't have an answer for it. I looked on, I tried Googling, and there's not really any precedent, but I know we can't do a no left turn thing or anything like that, or maybe we can, I'm just kind of wondering, and that would really address a lot of the concerns about the traffic increase in there if we could somehow encourage people to turn right.
Well,
and left.
that's a very good point. And at the present moment, I'm inclined to keep our options open as much as possible for discussions with MOT. And as I mentioned at the public hearing, there's a possibility that they may require that there be no left turns against oncoming traffic. So I would like to, at this point, wait and see what they're going to say without removing us having the option of discouraging that ourselves. And it would be discouraging because I don't think we would necessarily have the rights, but I can confirm this, to say no left turns from one of our public streets, on the highway. It's a possibility, but I'll investigate that.
I'm wondering if we could do a right turn only except for emergency vehicles or something like that. And that really would, because if you're a resident in the new area,
right,
I would think that, turning right out of there from the very beginning when you first move in, it would become habit and everybody would be used to it right away.
I certainly very strongly support that from a planning point of view. And the only thing which I would like to add to that is that I was down on the site and Miss Haley Bourne talked to me at that point of view, and I raised that as a distinct option at the time. And then, but she was not very supportive of that idea because then that would prevent her from making a left turn. So, as I say, I think this matter is going to get resolved through the negotiation process with MOT, and it's certainly an option, I think, for us to keep on the table. The most important thing is to keep Wren Place open, right, because of emergency access and that kind of thing, and also too, and added to that, if there's further development at the bottom of Wren Place, you are, for the time being until the rest of the area develops, looking at a very long cul-de-sac, longer than that I would suggest is good practice. So I want to keep the option open for Wren Place to have access on the highway, and with that in mind, and if Council agree that we should be pursuing as much interconnectivity as possible, still be open to discussions with MOT about what they think best practice is. But my bottom line, and I did say this at the public hearing, is that I don't want to see it closed.
Alain, just for clarity, I want to make sure that we're talking about the same intersection. I'm talking about the internal exit and entrance into the new subdivision. at that intersection, so that when residents are exiting that area, rather than turning left, signage would encourage them to turn right?
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, great.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Towards 74th, in other words?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Can I ask Director Cunningham, MOT is actually the agency that is going to make the final decision on this. We can suggest things and show how we're going to make it work, but because it's the highway, it's their final decision. Am I correct?
Yeah, but I think that we, as a sovereign municipality, if I could put it that way, we do have some rights in this discussion, and I don't expect and would not support them disregarding the comments that we raised.
Good, thank you. So, Council, would anybody like to make a motion based on 1, 2, 3, or 4? Would you prefer that we do this separately? Okay, so option number 1 is to approve the attached public hearing minutes. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, can't do it? Okay,
No, you've done it already.
Oh, we've done that part. Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, we
So
did
we've done
do one.
option 1. Option 2, endorse staff's recommendations for responding to concerns. Councillor Rhodes,
I'll make that motion based on the wording in option 2.
thank you. Councillor Campbell, all in favor? Thank you. Option 3, third readings to the OCP and zoning bylaws. Councillor Campbell, Councillor King. Sorry, did you get that? Mrs. Hilson? Okay. Councillor Campbell, Councillor King for option number 3. Anybody need to?
Oh,
No.
these are the bylaws done separately.
Each one of, so option 3, you want them separately? Okay.
Two bylaws separate.
So we'll do the official community plan bylaw first, and that would be Campbell King. All in favor? Thank you. And now the zoning bylaw. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Campbell, all in favor. Thank you. And option 4, authorize the signing of the agent authorization letter. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was, so that will now go on to, at least we can get the letters written and sent on to the ALC. Thank you for talking with them yesterday.
Yep.
Sounds like we're making sure all bases are covered, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you very much. And is that a motion to adjourn, please? Rhodes, Campbell, all in favor. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, Keith.